Small scale farming is one of the most important movements in the world today. It's feeding people, bringing communities together, helping sequester carbon, and giving people careers and livelihoods that they're really, really passionate about. And it's good for personal growth, just on a side note. I'm really excited to share this conversation with Caroline from the Boreal farm in Duluth. She is a master collaborator. She's a new farmer, a small scale farmer, been farming for 6 years. And she is sharing some of her learnings and harvests around the power of collaboration, some of what she's learned as a small scale farmer, and how to be successful as a small scale farmer, what you really need, and how you can lean into and glean from the resources and the organizations and the people around you to really make your small farm successful. I'm Natalie Forsbauer, founder and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soil magazine. Thank you for joining us for this interview. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, just hit subscribe below. Be sure to like this and share this with your friends and family and others who are into farming or want to learn more about where the food comes from. And if you haven't subscribed to the magazine yet, Heart and Soil magazine, head on over to heartandsoilmagazine.com and you can get yours for just $39.99 a year. And it's a great place to connect with other farmers, gardeners, and health practitioners who are sharing what they know about regenerative farming, gardening, and living. Enjoy the conversation with Caroline and make yourself an amazing day. Caroline, it's so nice to have you joining us from your home, on your farm, with your dogs. You are amazing carving out this time to spend with me to talk about the power of collaboration, how you got into farming, and all the, how do you say, unpredictable moments that farming can bring, just like right now, right?
Like right now, we're totally unscripted. The original place that I set up and cleaned up is totally not working. And so here we are sitting on the floor in the living room with my dogs.
Yeah, it's really powerful. We're having a hard time with our internet connection. So
yeah,
we figured out a way to make it work. Caroline, tell us, before we jump into the power of collaboration and why that's so important as a small scale farmer, tell us how you got into farming. How did that happen? Because you're pretty new to it.
Yeah, we're pretty new to it. We really are. So city girl, born and raised in St. Paul. Mm-hmm. My husband is an outdoorsman, loves being outside. Oops, that's a dog. Sorry, we're working with it. And so we ended up moving to Duluth because he loves the Boundary Waters. And he spends and we have spent a lot of time in the Boundary Waters. So and then we had kids, and the whole idea of growing our own food, we had some health challenges with them. And so we started really looking at our food and the food system. And then from there, we started having a big garden, and then we were like, well, this isn't enough space. So we decided we needed some land, because that just makes sense, right? You need a bigger garden. And from there, we decided to do a pick your own CSA. So we had people coming onto the farm, and we would walk the field with them and pick food with them. And that was really great. We loved that process. And then COVID came, and then we went to a full CSA because we weren't allowed to have people on the farm.
Right. And so how long did you have people on the farm before you had to shift?
3 years. We had people on the farm. And so we were certified organic since 17. I mean, so we went all out. There was no halfway.
Good for
and
you.
then COVID came, and then we had to do all this infrastructure. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog growling. She's trying to get me to play with her.
So. That's okay. That's okay.
We then went total. We had to get walk-in coolers. We had to do a packing station, just the whole thing. And so it took us to a different place than we expected to go, because what we wanted to do is really to do pick your own fruit then. But then COVID changed how we were able to have people on the farm. And so now we're a CSA and broiler, and we're still planting fruit trees and berry bushes and
Good for you.
just realizing that that's just a different goal
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
different
That's
place.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are in the northern hemisphere, and so you're planting fruit trees and berry trees. So tell us more about that. What can you plant in the north?
Well, surprisingly, we can plant a lot. We do Saskatoons, we do Aronia berries, we have
You do
blueberries,
what was the second one?
Saskatoons,
So Saskatoons and then what?
Aronia, and blueberries.
Aronia. Aronia. What are Aronia berries?
Aronia is I kind of think of it between it's tartar. So and we do elderberries.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like between an elderberry and a blueberry.
Oh, cool.
It has a higher tannic.
Okay.
So it's tartar. It's really tart.
Neat.
And then elderberries are extremely tart, and you actually have to cook those before you can eat them because they're so high in salicylic acid. So
Mhm.
they can make you sick. They can give you an upset stomach
Mhm.
because they're not good for your gastrointestinal tract without boiling or cooking first.
Yeah.
So sorry,
That's
rabbit
okay.
hole, right?
I go off on those tangents too. I appreciate
Yeah.
that information. A
And
lot of
then
people
we go
probably don't know it.
into, then we do apples and we do cherries. So, and then we do a polyculture orchard. So what that means is that we don't plant any, so we have 5 or 6 different fruit trees in there.
Mhm.
And then we intersperse it with blueberries as well. So we have an upper canopy and a lower canopy between the trees. So we do cherries, apples, pears, peach, apricot. I'm missing plums and plums.
Amazing.
And so what that does is that automatically gives us an integrated pest management system because there's no 2 trees alike and no 2 trees are next to each other. So for every apple, there's 2 other fruit trees.
Okay.
So
So
and even that apple tree is the only type of apple tree. So we don't buy like 10 Cortlands. We will buy just one Cortland, and then we buy a McIntosh and a Sweet 16, and then all different kinds of other ones. And we'd like to stay with the heirlooms as much as possible.
yeah. And so you actually only get one of each kind of apple tree. And then just to give us an idea, how many trees are in this orchard that you have?
I think we have over 60, might be close to 70 now.
Wow. And only one variety of each apple.
Mhm.
And then what?
So then there's an apple, and then there might be a peach, and then maybe a pear, and then we also plant it by blooming season. So we have a lot of hills where we are.
Yeah.
So the later blooming trees will be down the hill, and those
Okay.
are usually later apples, later
Yeah.
fruit, and then
Yeah.
the earlier fruit and the earlier blooming is at the top of the hill. So that when that cold sink happens, it's not happening to the early
Yeah.
blossoming trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice pants. That's really cool. And
Yeah.
then the bushes, the blueberries and Saskatoons, where are those planted?
In between. So, well, and we have another field. So
right.
there's another field of blueberries. There's another area, another field of Saskatoons
Mhm.
and Aronias mixed together. And then we also mix together the blueberries with the fruit trees.
Okay, neat. And are those planted in rows, or do you have a special design that or pattern that you plant them
They were
in?
planted in rows. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And how many bushes between each tree?
One, just one.
Okay, so it goes tree, bush, tree, bush, tree, bush, tree, bush,
Mhm.
all the way down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And what kind of blueberries? What variety?
We like to do the blue crop and
Oh,
blueberry. So
okay.
they're an earlier variety. We have the SWD fly, which will
Mhm.
bother your fruits.
Yep.
And so we planted fruit that would either bear before that or after that.
Okay, that's really cool. I grew up in a blueberry farm, so I'm familiar with blueberries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like blue quab. They're nice. So that is really cool. And then, so you've been farming for 5 years. No, yeah, 5 years. CSA, you pick, and then CSA, more like home delivery or pickup.
Yes. And we do pick up on the farm so that people really
On the
get
farm.
connected to where their food is coming from.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what has been, you and I talked earlier, and you talked about being a master collaborator. My words, not yours. You just talked
Oh
about all
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I used the word master.
yeah, you talked about all the collaboration you're doing, and I was like, wow, that's really super powerful. And so I would call you a master collaborator and somebody who we can really learn from when we're a small scale farmer, because the power in collaboration, it takes your farming to the next level, not only for all the resources and strategies that you've used in your planting, but also in probably growing your business. So I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how collaboration has played a significant and important and valuable role in your farming journey.
Oh, we wouldn't be where we are today without collaboration.
Mm.
No way. Yeah. Farming as isolating it as it is, you need that advice from other people. Most, there aren't really very many legacy farms around. There aren't very many legacy farmers around. There's not very many multi-generational farmers anymore because of the cost of farming. And so you really are learning all over again in so many ways. And, there's all these books now and YouTube videos. And so when I started with our FSA office and our NRCS office. That's where I went.
So tell us
what
tell us what those
Oh yeah, so a farm service agency.
Okay.
And we also had our property reassessed as agriculture. We felt that would give us a stronger, being new, we felt that would be a stronger case for our farm. And then we also worked with our Natural Resource Conservation Services office, and they're usually right next door to each other. So whenever I said I want to do a farm and this is what I want to do, they'd be like, okay, you need to do this. So I would literally go out and do it and come back and say, okay, what's next?
Wow.
And they would tell me what to do next. And then I go out and I come back. It might take me 6 months, but then I come back and say, okay, what do I do next? And then with that, they really, when you take somebody's advice and really take that to heart and do it, that really gets them invested in you and what you're doing, and so that was great. And we also then started reaching out to area farmers that were similar to us, at least in size.
Yeah.
And so that was a great way to start then. So as an older farmer, I guess you might say, we've been married a while, we have 2 kids, and then we started to farm. We didn't do it the other way around. So there wasn't really an opportunity for us to go and apprentice at other farms or anything like that. So we were really kind of did it backwards that way.
I think we're seeing that more and more though, Caroline, we're seeing more and more of that, like what you said, backwards way of doing it. And I think so this conversation is super valuable because there's a lot of people who are like you, who are in the situation, who are like, what next? Because there's a lot of support for young agrarians and young farmers, and and then there's that middle ground for new farmers who might not meet the young farmer quota, and they need the same amount of support.
Yeah. And so that was us. We really had to find those people, find that expertise to help us answer those questions. How did you get a high tunnel? Where did you go to get one of those? How do you build one? How do you build one with knowing we have a lot of wind? How do we make sure it doesn't get blown down and blow away? And, so, and kind of I had to set aside my fear of asking questions. And I had to set aside my fear of not having people want to talk to me. I had to set aside all that, which was hard. That wasn't an easy thing to do. Not at all. So that was a big one to do. As adults, we often aren't necessarily comfortable with not being in control, being in the unknown, especially when you've already had your career and you've had these friends and you're established, and all of a sudden now you're really just yanking yourself up by the roots and transplanting yourself. And you're in the learning curve is so huge, it's so steep. That's why they say new farmers take 10 years. You're 10 years, you're a new farmer. And so, this is our 6th season, but I still feel like a newbie in so many ways.
Yeah, that's powerful that you said that. One is, it's that feel the fear and do it anyways. And the power in just letting go of what we think may or may not happen if we ask those questions, right? Is so powerful, taking those steps. And then the other piece you said was that you still feel like a farmer after 6 years of farming already. I was born and raised on an organic farm. And then I had my own certified organic mixed grain farm with my kids' father. And we did that. I was on there for 7 years. And I've had this farm for 2 years, and I still feel like a new farmer sometimes. It's amazing. And I was born and raised doing it. Like, that's almost all I know.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, you're so cute, is that the land is so different, So
Yeah.
even if I went to another farm, the land is different, the wind is different, the rain is different, it's just all different. So you need to know.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Thank
And
you.
then the crops are different. I mean, going from grain to berries, from berries to grain, that's a different learning process. That's a different growing process.
It is. Yeah, it is. I think that's one of the gifts of being a farmer is we're always learning. And the more curious we can be, the more opportunity there is for us to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess I had to let that, like you were saying, that curiosity, I had to let that curiosity come to the front and push the fear to the back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what have been some of your biggest learnings in your journey of farming and collaborating?
That, I think, not being afraid is one of the biggest ones. Not being afraid to fail. Not being afraid to fail. I grow 30 different kinds of annual crops. And then I grow another 15 different kinds of perennial crops. And then chickens. I'm sorry, she just wants me to play with her here.
That's
Can you hear
okay.
her growling? I'm so sorry.
I hear you.
And so so I guess
dog's way of cheering you on.
Yeah, they're cheering me up. So that was the biggest thing, is not being afraid to fail. And knowing that I'm going to fail, and that's part of the learning process. Failure is part of the learning process.
Man, that's powerful. What a gift to be able to give your children to as you're experiencing that yourself, right? Because there's so much pressure.
There is a lot of pressure.
Right?
Failure is expensive.
Yeah.
Failure is expensive.
Tell me more about that. What does that mean, that it's expensive?
So, well, you buy 60 fruit trees and you plant them, and then drought comes for 2 years in a row and they all die. And at $30 a piece, plus all the labor that goes into all the hoses, all the irrigation, the fertilizer, the time, 2 years, as a, I'm not that's a long time. Farming is a long game, and it's a gamble. So not only did you lose all those trees, but then you lost 2 years worth of time.
How do you work through something like that? How do you handle that kind of failure?
Oh, sometimes you're really angry and frustrated and you want to cry. And sometimes you do cry.
Yeah.
And then you have to let it go.
Yeah.
And you have to start over again. You have to, maybe it's a reassessment. You decide that you don't want to have an orchard, or you reassess and say, okay, in 10 years, I really don't want to be doing CSA farming because it's going to be really hard on my body. And we're going to try again.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
So noticing where you are at, and then what your next steps are and might be moving forward. So it really brings a certain amount of introspection.
Yeah, you have to, that's that being willing to fail part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. So Caroline, circling back to the power of collaboration, what have been some of your biggest wins with collaborating? What has stood out to you the most?
The relationship building, because as you collaborate, as you ask for something, you're giving something back, right? So it becomes an exchange. And in that, trust gets built. And when trust gets built, then freedoms start happening with sharing. And that's been amazing. So like right now we're experimenting with another farm. And I don't know if, we're doing a research study with another farm. I'm not sure that would have come up had I not, been like, oh, this is what we're doing. What are you doing? Can
Yeah.
we, oh, that's really cool. Being as excited about what they're doing as
Mhm.
about what we're doing,
Yeah.
um, that's been the really important part, is
Yeah.
to realize, is to be there for them as much as they're being there for you,
Mm.
and being excited for what they're doing. Because there's plenty of market space,
Yeah. Yeah, there
for
is.
everybody. There
There is.
really is.
Yeah.
There's plenty of market space. So I don't have to win and somebody else loses.
No.
The idea is that we all win when we're working together.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's true for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So you're collaborating with other farmers. You're also mentioned you're collaborating with the university, right?
Oh yeah, the University of Minnesota Duluth. Yes.
Yeah. So tell
And
us more
then
about that collaboration.
so so I'm collaborating in different ways. So with the University of Minnesota Duluth, we're with their Regional Sustainable Development Partnership. We got a small grant from them to do a root cellar. So that bringing together modern technology with old world knowledge of root cellaring, and to help small producers have a more sustainable, longer income span. So instead of just those sort of 4 months out of the 5 months out of the cold season or the short growing season, the idea is that, with high tunnels or low tunnels, caterpillar tunnels, high tunnels, the growing season and root cellaring, we
Mhm.
could be selling 10 months out of the year to maybe
Wow.
12 months out of the year.
That's
And so nobody else is really experimenting with this. Nobody's really showing how to do that. And so that's where this collaboration is coming in with the university, is to do this. I'm also collaborating with the University of Minnesota Twin Cities
Mhm.
on their climate. So it's called the Minnesota Climate Adaptation Partnership. And so I recently went through their training program, and we're doing a collaboration with them through our Lake Superior Sustainable Farming Association chapter up here.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's another collaboration that's doing a larger thing on communicating climate change for farmers, and what that means for them and how they're adapting, because farming is really a solution to climate adaptation.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's really a solution. And so nobody's really talking about it from that perspective.
Tell us more about that solution.
Well, I'm not quite sure what that is yet.
Okay.
I don't really have an answer. I just know that carbon sequestering, how we treat the land, how we farm, impacts how the climate responds. It's an interaction.
Yeah, it is.
It is an interaction. So we've been taking a lot now, and now we need to figure out how to give back.
Yeah,
And
and
I don't know what
collaborate.
that is. Yeah, and
So
collaborate.
yeah, it's beyond the human collaboration, and it's circling back to collaboration with nature and collaboration with the earth.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. Um, is there anything else that you want to cover with the collaboration, Caroline?
So yeah, I'm always looking for ways to partner and to give back, and to so we have interns here. That's another thing that we do to pay it forward, to collaborate. They always bring a unique perspective because they don't know, so when they don't know anything, they remind me every year how to do it again, how to explain it, why do we do what we do.
Yeah.
And so that's a great collaboration, because it reminds me that farming is new every year. And when you're teaching and growing, it makes me pause, not to be so routine. It's not a blind routine.
Right. And it probably opens up new ways of thinking. right?
It
A new way of
does.
seeing
Mhm.
things.
Yep.
Because you don't get stuck in, this is the way I do it, and this is the way it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also work with the land lab, the sustainable agriculture program at
Mhm.
University of Minnesota Duluth. We do kind of, just being in touch and help each other out. Like, hey, I'm short some things this week for my CSA. Do you have anything? I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
let's do a
fabulous.
swap. So we do that.
Oh, that's fabulous. I
Yeah,
love
so it teaches the students too how to kind of, because we have their interns here, and
yeah,
then, you know, so every once in a while we get a call, and I'll say, yeah, I got extra onions, or I have extra garlic, or
yeah, yeah.
extra
Man,
lettuce.
oh, huh.
Yeah.
So, two things. One is, if I'm a new farmer, or if I'm even a farmer who hasn't done much collaborating and I want to start collaborating, where does somebody, like, how does somebody start those conversations?
So look for farmers who are like you, or look for farmers who aren't like you that you want to learn something from. And maybe
Mm.
that's the better question, is looking for farmers who aren't like you to learn from, you know.
Why farmers who aren't like me to learn from?
Because it challenges you to think things differently.
Mm.
And you're looking for ways to do, I mean, collaboration usually means that, you're willing to change,
Right.
that you're willing to change. And collaboration means that there's an exchange happening.
Mm.
And so I'm willing to change, and hopefully it's always for the better. I'm always looking forward to do it to the better.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's powerful. And what about if I'm really scared, if having those conversations and asking the questions are really hard, where's a place that I can start? What are some of the first questions that I could maybe put in
yeah.
on my list to ask?
Um, I don't know. I mean, for Minnesota, we have the Sustainable Farming Association, which is a great place to become a member and ask questions of.
Mhm.
Um, I love Instagram, actually, is a great place to go out and ask questions, because it's such a welcoming environment.
Yeah.
And so just even going out there and finding farms that really are like, wow, I love what they're doing. Now,
Yeah.
Instagram, of course, is the nice side of what's happening. Sometimes you don't get the hard side, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you can't ask the hard question, like, oh,
Mhm.
how did you do that? And
Mhm.
I love Instagram for that, because people answer back. Even if they have, like, 9,000 followers, and you
Yeah.
ask a question, they so often answer back.
Yeah.
And then you can also have a private conversation in Instagram. So it doesn't have to be public.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
really cool.
and that's a great place to go to, where you can kind of be tentative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you
That's
travel, I always
part.
try to find a farm. When we travel, I always try to find a farm
Same,
to
always.
check out. Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Ever since I first started traveling in my 20s, I was, where are the farms? I want to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So we always try to do at least one stopover someplace um,
Okay.
on the
Neat.
map. And then, usually we connect by Instagram and say, hey,
Really?
yeah.
Wow. And so, have you ever participated in anything like Woof or Workaway or anything like that? Or do you just kind of find farms along the way and ask them if you can stay there?
Actually, we don't stay. We just pop in for like an hour or so.
Okay.
Kind of make it like a Vista stop.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, because we don't want to take their whole time.
Yeah.
But usually it's specific. Oh, I saw your flowers on this,
Yeah.
and we're a farm too. We're thinking about adding flowers. Is there a way we can stop by, and you can, we're on our way this way. Could you just stop by for an hour for a quick tour? And
Perfect.
usually that's a great place to start. And then we can continue the conversation by
Mhm.
Zoom or
Mm.
calls or whatever later. And then hopefully that exchange then I can give something back. Hopefully I can give something back later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you always a collaborator?
No,
No.
farming pushed me to be a collaborator because I didn't know anything.
Wow. So, farming pushed you to be a collaborator. Farming helped you feel the fear and do it anyways, ask questions. Farming helped you step out of your comfort zone. And farming also, like, probably um rewired your brain for huge amounts of, I'll just say intelligence for your later years as you come, right? Because neuroscience is showing us that the more we're learning, the more active our brain is as we move into our later years, right? And I know you're still in your early years, but still, I think that anytime we're learning along the way, we're helping those neurons fire and create neural pathways.
Yeah.
And back to what farming has taught you. What else has farming taught you?
It's
or helped
hard.
you grow?
It's hard. It's sticking through and moving through the hard stuff. It's really hard.
So learning perseverance.
Yeah. And it's okay to be, I don't know if any farmer hasn't said to themselves, I'm not sure if I want to stay here.
Yeah. What keeps you?
What keeps us here?
Yeah. What keeps you?
Whatever farmer says, it's going to be better next year. It's going to get better next year. I promise.
Yeah.
Eternal hope. That's going to be better next year. Because farmers are, if nothing else, hopeful, because you have to be.
Right. Yeah, you do have to be. And you're 5 years into your farming journey. How sustainable is it in terms of supporting your family? How close are you to that benchmark?
I think next year we'll be able to actually pay for where we are. Wow. Right now we're pretty dependent on Jay's off farm income. Yeah.
Which is really normal for farmers who are starting. Right?
I don't know if we'll ever really get away from that. But I think next year we'll have enough of the infrastructure done that we won't need to add anymore. And we'll actually be able to, say, okay, we're self-sustaining. At least for the house payment.
Right.
It's not gonna make the house payment. And the taxes.
Oh, man.
And the insurance. I'm hoping I can do that next year.
Yes. Oh, I'm holding that for you, Caroline. I'm holding that for you and the Boreal farm. So we've talked about the power of collaboration, some of your bigger challenges, and I'm wondering if you had 3 pieces of advice to give to a new farmer, what would that be?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's okay to give up, but it's okay to change. It's okay to change your dream. It's okay to change the dream and to change the goal.
I love that. It actually puts tears in my eyes. I think we can all learn from that. Yeah, all learn from that. And what fills your heart up the most about what you're doing? What makes your heart expand when you're in it?
The customers. For sure. Yeah.
And what part of that?
Their support. Not just, with their dollars, but with their words and their actions and their that makes it. Yeah. And not even the hardest days when they come to pick up and I'm feeling like there's just not even enough in the field because, even if we've been watering all day, every day, through the drought, we had 2 droughts in a row now. They're still like, it's okay. We get it. We're here, because we love it. We love your farm and we love what you're doing and we want to be here. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. That's it.
That's awesome. How big is your farm?
We have 25 acres.
And how many?
But we have in production for our CSA is about 1 acre. And then in production for our orchard and other fruit, probably about 2 to 3 acres.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think we have 3 total.
1 acre. And how many CSAs do you have going?
This year we've had 40 for the past couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people you can feed off of 1 acre of land, isn't it?
It is amazing. And in 16 weeks solid. And then I think we even with the Indian that we had another month on top of that. So we did probably 20 weeks last year.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And then we want to get into using our tunnels into getting into spring and fall shares. Yeah.
You decided to certify organic, and I'm wondering why that was important to you.
Right. So we thought long and hard about even joining the, Farm Service Agency, about joining NRCS, putting ourselves out there. Farmers are, very independent lot. We don't really like a lot of interference with what we're doing and how we're doing and why we're doing it. But we want to be as transparent as possible to build trust. And the Real Organic Project is one of our certifications, and our certifier from there was talking about radical transparency. And we really like that idea, that concept of being radically transparent. And not, if I'm willing to say that I'm doing it, well, then why not take it that, why not put that seal to that talk, right? We talk about sustainability, we talk about regenerative. And that's not to say that all those people aren't doing those fabulous things, but we just wanted to take it that one step further and be radically transparent. And I think too that there's solidarity with numbers. So the more farmers that are certified organic, the stronger the movement is. Which is one reason why we did the Real Organic Project, is because we really felt like adding our voice to that was important. And putting the organic back into the certified organic.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, I because that's not.
I totally know. And I support. I'm also a supporter of organic certification, whether a farm is a big farm or a small farm. And of course, I'm a grassroots movement kind of girl. My parents helped found the certification standards, the first certification standards in BC. So I deeply honor and value and respect that movement. And you said something really powerful, which is radical transparency. And some people think radical transparency is like, well, I talk to my farmer and they tell me what I do. But can you tell me the difference between the radical transparency of certification or verification and it's not to minimize not being certified, because I want to make that clear. It's just to give us a further understanding of where you're coming from as a farmer, of why that matters and what it means to you.
Yeah, we really wanted to give credibility to what we're doing. We wanted to give credibility to the movement. We wanted to build trust. And our area doesn't have many farms anymore. And so we also felt like getting the seal also put some seriousness behind what we were doing. We're not a hobby farm. Yeah, we're not huge, but we're not a hobby farm. And we wanted to be an example of what a small farm could do. And we felt that the seal gave us some of that sort of gravitas to doing that. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Caroline, and thanks for sharing your tips and resources around the power of collaboration, and telling us a little bit about your farming journey and the highs and the lows, and what we can learn from the farming practice, the actual practice of farming, and also what we can learn from those we collaborate and have conversations with, and what can happen when we just let down our walls and be vulnerable and ask the hard questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, have a great day.
Grateful you joined us for that conversation and interview. If you haven't subscribed to Heart and Soil Magazine yet, head over to heartandsoilmagazine.com, click on that subscribe button, and join us for just $39.99 a year. You make yourself an amazing day, and I'm really grateful you're part of our community.